Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
What's up, everybody? Kevin Jackson here. I hope you had a good weekend. The memo dropped on Friday. The FISA memo got released. And you know what? It had no national security implications in it whatsoever. None. But you know what it had plenty of? I'm about to tell you, audience of the Kevin Jackson Show, kjradio.com. If you want to call us, 844-551-8255. It had plenty of information about crooked FBI people. That's what it had. It essentially said, in a very succinct manner, that the FBI had no reason to believe the fake dossier. They had no reason to believe the person who prepared it. They knew that Hillary Clinton and the DNC had paid to have it done. It was essentially a figment. Not a figment. It was a fictitious document. That's what it was. End of story. And they knew it. Everybody up the food chain. Comey knew it. Rosenstein knew it. What was that lady that quit? Sally Yates. She knew it. And so what it did is it did a couple things right away. Let me just break it down for you. Number one, Mueller, your investigation is done. There is no collusion between Trump and the Russians, and he needs to shut it down. He needs to shut it down, and then Donald Trump needs to find somebody to become special prosecutor to investigate everyone involved in this. And I promise you, this will take us up through the election. It's no longer going to be about Trump. It's going to be the rats scurrying to protect Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton if they choose to do so. Mission impossible, if you ask me. But that's what all the hoopla was about. Now, let me just say this, folks. To the laymen that are looking at this, document that got released, and they're going, I don't really get it. I don't understand. What's the big deal? It is a big deal. It's a huge deal. Why do you think the Democrats fought so hard to stop it? This case easily proves that the FBI colluded against Donald Trump to keep him out of office, and they were willing to look at a disgraced former FBI informant to have him do it. Donald Trump is, man, I told you, talk about coming out smelling like a rose. Here's the one section of it that to me pretty much says it all. According to the head of the FBI's counterintelligence division, Assistant Director Bill Priestap. By the way, this is the guy who replaced Peter Strzok. Corroboration of the Steele dossier was in its infancy at the time of the initial Page FISA application. After Steele was terminated, a source validation report conducted by an independent unit within FBI assessed Steele's reporting as only minimally corroborated. Yet in early January of 2017, Director Comey briefed President-elect on a summary of the Steele dossier, even though it was, according to his June 2017 testimony, salacious and unverified. While the FISA application relied on Steele's past record of credible reporting on other unrelated matters, it ignored or concealed his anti-Trump financial and ideological motivations. Furthermore, Deputy Director McCabe testified before the committee in December of 2017 that no surveillance warrant would have been sought from the FISC, the FISC, without the Steele dossier information. So in other words, it's fruit of a poison tree, and there isn't even any fruit. How pathetic. So the question becomes, who ignored it? Who decided that this is something that needs to see the light of day? Well, you know who it was. It was a bunch of minions, everybody in the food chain from Steele himself, as they said, who had not only a financial but a philosophical disagreement with, financial gain, as well as they call it an ideological motivation, but so did everybody else. That's what we were talking about when we were talking about what Strzok and Lisa Page did when they were colluding together to say, we got to get rid of this guy at all cost. And now we can connect all the dots. Yeah. Everybody in Comey's universe ignored the obvious. Now, the real investigations get to start. As I said earlier, Mueller should shut his down. Save face. How are you going to prosecute somebody when you now know that the FBI started the whole thing on bogus stuff? Not to mention, Trump's not guilty of anything. If anybody has recourse, it's people like Manafort. It's people like, Carter Page isn't guilty. If it were me, if I were Donald Trump Jr., if I were Jared Kushner, if I were Michael Flynn, Manafort, any of them, I would sue everybody in the food chain, including the federal government. I'd say, you just ruin people's lives. Mike Flynn was on the president's cabinet, a part of history, reputation in tatters. I met General Flynn, met him in Cleveland. Great guy. Stellar record. You don't get to be a 3-star general and be a chump. This guy, he's like the Darren Wilson of politics. You know who Darren Wilson is, right? Dude, the cop that killed Michael Brown. Michael Flynn is a casualty of nothing. And now they know. But it gets worse because now we know that it's one thing the FBI went after Donald Trump. It's another that they exonerated Hillary Clinton. And Clinton's list of excuses, the FBI cost me the election. No. The FBI saved your butt. Had the FBI done its job, Donald Trump is running against nobody. Bernie Sanders. If the FBI had done its job, Bernie Sanders is the candidate. End of story. I remember saying there was a group that predicted every election who would win, who would be up against what, and who would win. And they picked Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, and people thought, that's crazy. That's exactly who it was supposed to be. Then they picked Trump beating Sanders, of course. I want to talk when we come back. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this because, do you believe it or not, this is what I liken this revelation to, like I said, getting your black belt. When I got my black belt, I remember thinking to myself, man, I could hardly wait because then I'm done. I'm like, oh, and I remember a black belt telling me, Kevin, that is such a you're completely wrong, dude. When you get your black belt, you will just start beginning to learn. Or you'll begin to learn, not start beginning. You know what I mean.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. We are on the heels now, in the wake of the release of the FISA memo, the 4-page document that was supposed to be so shocking and revolutionary and, against national security that everybody was against it. The FBI, all the Democrats, and it's been released, and I read it. 4 pages, took me about, 4 minutes, 3 minutes maybe, and I didn't see anything that was upending national security. I saw a lot of stuff that certainly impugned the investigative techniques, if you will, of the FBI. I saw a lot of that. Politico reported this. In a briefing, House Intelligence Committee staff said the memo reveals that the Steele dossier was a factor in the initial October 21st, 2016 warrant to spy on Carter Page and was included in several 90-day renewals as well. 3 of the applications were signed off by Comey, 1 by his long-term deputy Andrew McCabe. See, what they're wanting to do now is give cover by saying, no, they weren't spying on Trump. They were spying on McCabe. And McCabe eventually worked for Trump. Ergo, it was okay to spy on Trump. Now, you might not know this. You might not remember this. But when Carter Page was told, oh, yeah, there were reasons that we were looking at you because you'd visited Russia, he goes, I've never been to Russia. And they go, whoa. And then they said, oh, but wait a minute, you have a Russian wife. And he goes, well, and I'm just trying to go from memory, but it was something either like, no, my wife is Croatian, and she's never been to Russia. It was like, ba-bam. I mean, they just slam dunked this idea. Politico goes on to say those applications were also approved by the Justice Department by a succession of top Justice Department officials, once by Sally Yates, an Obama administration holdover who acted as Attorney General until 2017 January. Once Dana Boente, B-O-E-N-T-E, that's a guy, by the way, who succeeded Yates, and once by Rod Rosenstein, who was confirmed by the Deputy Attorney General in March. The memo suggests that the FBI and Justice Department knew that Steele's work had been financed by the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign, but didn't disclose the political connection in any of its applications. They also didn't disclose Steele's personal antipathy for Trump, which committee officials said included him telling a top DOJ official that he was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected. Now let me ask you, a guy that tells you, I'm desperate to keep Donald Trump out, and you go, hey, give us that dossier that you've prepared, unbiased, of course, so we can submit it to get an application to go spy on a guy who we say is tangentially connected to the Russians because his wife, his name is Natasha, but neither of those people have ever been to Russia. This is what we're talking about. President Trump called it shameful. That's what it is. Shameful. They also suggested that Steele misled officials about his contacts with the media when he initially reached out to provide the dossier. Now, all I could gather from that, and there are going to be pundits talking about it for the next week, what I gathered from that was that he essentially sold this to the media as official when in fact he was already dismissed from the FBI because they said he was unreliable. So you got the list of people now that we need to go after. And Rosenstein's name had already been floated. But let's talk about Sally Yates. You remember Sally Yates? Former acting Attorney General Sally Yates. She was fired by President Trump. But she had this to say back in December of last year. By the way, she had said she would not execute on Donald Trump's order, the travel order. That was where you start maybe remember hearing her name if you don't recall completely. But anyway, they said back in December, former acting Attorney General Sally Yates implored the public, get this, to embrace American core values of freedom and justice or run the risk of letting an unnamed force at hand potentially ruin what makes America unique. She's talking about this in the context of the travel order. She also called on Washington and the public to remember the lessons of Watergate and honor the rule of law. Here's what she says. Over the course of our nation's history, we have faced inflection points, times when we had to decide who we are as a country and what we stand for. It reminds me of Obama saying, that's just not who we are. Or what did he say? Something like that, right? That's not what we are. Now in such a time, she says, beyond policy disagreements and partisan gamesmanship, there is something much more fundamental hanging in the balance. Will we remain faithful to our country's core values? She wrote that in an op-ed in December of last year. Got fired in January. Now, it sounded rather Comey-esque to me because Comey's been coming out with all these flowery little things like, stand tall, FBI people. You're going to come under attack. You think Comey knew what was happening? You think somebody maybe leaked the memo to Comey to say, holy cow, dude, what did you do to us, boy? Yates is eventually going to get prosecuted. Rosenstein, look, I don't care about optics. I don't think Donald Trump does either. I would call a press conference and say, what we need to do, taxpayers, is we need to take the bill for everybody who was investigating this witch hunt on me, and we need to you should issue a class action lawsuit against every Democrat, anybody who's been for this, and they should have to pay back the taxpayers. That's number one. Number two, Mueller needs to shut this witch hunt, snipe hunt of an investigation, finger quotes used, down. And then Sessions needs to start a special counsel to investigate every clown in the circus that you've just witnessed over the last year and a half. That's what needs to happen. I'd love to see President Trump come out with something like that. Because America waits to hear the sound of those prison bars clank close behind all these different criminals. That's what they are. They are criminals. And to Sally Yates, McCabe, Comey, they're the beginning of this conspiracy, folks. They're not the main people. They're not the major players. The major players in this conspiracy are Hillary Clinton, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and Barack Obama, and that entire team. That's who's complicit. Man, I can't wait. This is only beginning. Like I said earlier, we waited for this document to fall. We already knew what was going to happen. We knew, that the left is, I said before, this document didn't do anything except it validated what we already know. Well, good. Now we know. And the Democrats have already issued, you don't understand all the underlying reasons. Oh, yeah, we do. We've got plenty. It was said in testimony by McCabe, this dossier was a chief reason we started this investigation. And this dossier is junk. It is toilet paper. We'll be back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. We're on the heels of the FISA memo that's now out. And there were some really cool tweets on this, and I think we should explore some of these. They called it the National Shift Your Pants Day for Democrats, which I thought was really funny. Pardon me. National Shift Your Day Pants. Of course, in reference to Adam Schiff, who was having a conniption over this. You can't release it. It's got too many things. It's got national security implications. Oh my gosh, it can't do it. It'll be DEFCON 4. It's going to expose the FBI and their tactics and things like this. And it gets released and they go, oh, what was it? It was no big deal. So what's the big deal? Don't you find that interesting? That to me is the most interesting point. How many people said that what will it expose? It's going to do this. It'll ruin the way, the people think about the FBI, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it did ruin the way people think about the FBI. Look, you'd be crazy as an American right now to believe the left who want you to they want to put a blanket over you. Put that hood over your head and say, the FBI is good. Yeah, they haven't done anything crooked. If you're American today and you don't see the FBI as the crooked organization who really did try to thwart an election, then you're just not paying attention. A never-Trumper, a guy by the name of Sohrab Ahmari, said this. This is what he said. He's a never-Trumper. This is a leftist. He said, this is devastating. Unless there really is something to those material omissions of fact, and it has to be really strong counterweight evidence, this vindicates the vision of the politicized bureaucracy out to sink Trump and his associates. That is what an avid leftist anti-Trumper said of this. I'm just telling you, it doesn't get any worse for the Democrats. Now see, here's what's happening. At the base level, they don't quite understand it. They can be fooled a little bit, even though they're starting to get it. At the intellectual level of the Democrats, the ones that they don't want to lose, they see it. I'll tell you who this guy is in a bit. I want to get through some of these tweets. The Trump train tweeted this. Huge. Steele was directed by Fusion GPS to leak information to Yahoo News. Then the FBI used the Yahoo News article as a source in the Carter Page FISA application. This is proof of a collusion between the Clinton campaign, FBI, and mainstream media in an attempt to stop Trump. Now, I already explained about Carter Page, a guy who's married to a Russian lady. They accused him of being in a meeting with Russians in Moscow. Carter Page says, I have, number one, my passport shows you I've never been to Moscow. And ergo, if I've never been to Moscow, I certainly wasn't at a meeting that occurred in Moscow. That's how bad it's gotten. A guy named Thomas Paine, he has a blog site called True Pundit, I believe. Anyway, he says, that's the end of the FBI as you know it. Trump already laying pipe work behind the scenes to chop it up. Ray, you are free to go before the special counsel is appointed. The IG is running your agency right now anyway, and wait until that report drops. So this is a guy that's on the inside, has FBI insiders, and he's giving us more of a tidbit saying, we're not done. By the way, I've heard that we're not done from other sources. A guy named John Cardillo said this. He says, Comey, this is in response to Comey saying, what's the big deal? He says, Comey, you testified under oath to Congress that the dossier was, quote, salacious and unverified. Yet you certified its veracity to the FISA court prior to that testimony. That's perjury, obstruction of justice, abuse of authority. What am I missing? See, when Comey gets back before the man in 90 days, I don't know what it's going to take, but it is going to take that long. And to Carl's point, Carl's a guy who wrote to me and said, Kevin, nothing's going to happen. Nobody will get indicted. It's going to be more of the same. And I told Carl, I beg to differ. You're going to start watching the fallout. And here's what's interesting about everything that we've looked at over the last certainly decade. Look at every scandal from Benghazi, IRS scandal, VA scandal, running guns into Mexico, Fast and Furious, and on down the line. All these scandals that Barack Obama said from his scandal-free administration, and nothing was done. We don't even know the names. We know Lois Lerner in the IRS. That's all we know. Shinseki's the only person who left in the VA, and he had nothing to do with it. He was appointed after the fact. He resigned and got his pension. We know no other names in the VA. We know very few names in Benghazi. I mean, we know Susan Rice and Hillary Clinton. We don't know very many people. In this, we know a lot of folks. We know McCabe. We know Comey. We know Rosenstein. We know Yates. And many of these people have already started to lawyer up. So when you look at how long it's taken, Trump's been in office a year. Obama went 8 years of scandals, and you can't name 4 people that are involved in all of the different things that he's been involved in. I'm talking about pointing the finger directly at him. And now We've all in a short amount of time, we know who to go after. If you don't call that progress, that's huge progress. If the left is talking about you can't impugn the reputation of the FBI, are any of you buying that? Are your friends buying it? The answer is no. You can impugn the FBI, and I want to get to some of these other tweets because we're going to run out of time. So here's one. Wow, this is from Mark Meadows. He says, wow, Bruce Orr, a DOJ official, was receiving opposition research from his wife, Nellie Orr, who was working for Fusion GPS. Bruce Orr was taking DNC Clinton paid for opposition research and giving it to the FBI. That relationship was not disclosed to the FISA court. How does this happen? Now, that's a pretty good synopsis of exactly what occurred, and you got to ask yourself, in America, that can happen. You can get all the. I mean, how are the Democrats going to get around that? What counter argument can you say that allows Bruce or a DOJ official to receive opposition research from his wife, who was working for an opposition research group to Donald Trump, then taking that opposition research and giving it to the FBI? What part of that are you going to defend? I'm curious. If you are a person that's on the left, please call me 844-551-8255 and defend that. Send me a note, kjradio.com. Defend it. Defend it. And here's the other thing. If you're listening to the program and you're as outraged as I'm sure most of America is at this point, tell me that. I want to know what part of this is most outrageous to you. Donald Trump said this: the top leadership and investigators of the FBI and the Justice Department have politicized the sacred investigative process in favor of Democrats and against Republicans, something which would have been unthinkable just a short time ago. Rank and file people are great people. But he's pointing the finger at leadership, and he's exactly right. And that's a smart move, because what Donald Trump did in that tweet is he said, hey, rank and file people, I got your back. If you want to narc on these clowns and tell us what's been going on, I got your back. Now, something tells me Donald Trump already knows. I mean, he's got information, and it's beyond this. And let me tell you, this guy has been underestimated at every turn. My suspicion is people have already started whispering in his ear what they know. And I'm getting some feedback from that from various other sources. Here's what Tucker Carlson had to say. He said, law enforcement and intel agencies will remain as long as this country stays intact. We've got to trust them. We allow them to operate in secrecy because they tell us they must. In exchange, they must operate with integrity. They must prove to us they haven't become a political tool. Do you feel proof of that? Because I don't. This is a weaponized version. This is a weaponized strong arm of the Democratic Party, done so under Barack Obama. Now, has this been brewing for a while? Absolutely. Government is dominated by leftists. But you always were taught to believe that, political ideologies aside, these people are willing to protect, the sacred nature of the Constitution. Let me tell you something. Leftists don't care about the Constitution except to apply it in their favor. They don't care about it to protect the American citizen. If you believe anything other than that, you are naive. You are a bumpkin. And they rely on that. They've trained you to be a bumpkin. I'm just saying, folks, we can no longer trust the FBI. We can no longer trust the Department of Justice. And I'm telling you right now, you can't even trust the Trump version of it at this stage because it is still infiltrated by rats. Donald Trump is surrounded by enemies of the state. And the best thing you can hope is that before they try to do something to him, he figures it out and it gets rid of him. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. Anyway, I want to cover a few more of these tweets when we get back. Listen to the Kevin Jackson Show. Keep it in.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. Are you curious of what the polling is going to be on this FISA drop and what Donald Trump is doing? Because let me tell you, the polls right now have shifted dramatically. I saw a poll that had, does Trump have the right agenda for the country? And it was like 43% said no, 51% said yes. And this was like, I don't know, a couple months ago. Now it's flipped. 53% say yes, 41% say no. Now, I don't know how 41% of the people can look at what Trump does and say he doesn't have the right, stuff. He's not moving the economy in the right direction. But, whatever. Whatever's clever. The stock market dropped 600 points the other day. And you could almost see the exuberance on the face of what's his name, Shepard Smith on Fox. I was just saw a clip, and because he was talking about this FISA stuff, and they showed me the clip, and he was pointing to it, exuberant, like, look at this, ha 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 ha. And I'm thinking, okay, so the stock market's still gone up tremendously. Yeah, it backed off. They call it a correction. It's not even a full correction because it's still way up. But people are mocking it. And what was funny, analysts were saying, I watched this later on Fox Business, and they were saying it's the strangest thing because all the indicators are that this should be not happening, and it's okay. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's happening in the market right now. I haven't looked, but my suspicion is it'll slowly go back up. If you don't panic, it's going to go back up. Just sit it out. All the indicators are there. But anyway, back to the regular polls. The polling is, so we're flipping on, is the economy going in the right direction? I've already told you guys, black people, Trump has double the support of black folks that he had from before his election. And we talked about the poll after his State of the Union. So now that you've got this new FISA drop and we're seeing what's happening, and as I said earlier, the intellectuals on the left, the people who have, there was a guy, he's a hardcore anti-Trumper, leftist, who said, if this stuff is to be believed, and I'm beginning to believe it because I don't think they're going to be able to refute it, this is one of the worst things I've seen in this government. If you don't think there's another layer, there's a layer of those people out there, they have become the most dangerous people on the planet to the Democrats. See, those are the people who are smart enough to get it. And they've been ideologically trained to just believe all things Democrat. They hate Trump. He is the evil, the Antichrist, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly they find out this man has been telling the truth. Have you had a situation like that in your life? Where you believe somebody, you're like, oh no, that's so and so. He's right as rain, man. And then you find out that person is a duplicitous liar. I had a PR person like that. Thought she had my back, really believed in her. She convinced me that she was a Christian. She was all these good things. She's the biggest snake in the conservative movement. You see her on TV. She still comes off with the, oh, everything is good and oh, it's terrible. She's the biggest snake out there. I'm not going to say her name, but she is. And it was a shock to me. It was a blow. Like, are you serious? This person is this way? That's what the Democrats are going through right now. They're looking at icons. Barack Obama did this? Hillary Clinton participated in this? And on and on. James Comey, these are people they told me I could count on. And they can't. So now they have to question everything, their entire core. Donald Trump has been telling the truth. When he made the statement in the White that they're spying on me, he was telling the truth. And I didn't believe him. I was anti-Trump. I was never Trump. I was all these things. All these knuckleheads like Bill Kristol and Jonah Goldberg and others, Stephen Hayes, hated Trump. He's a liar, blah, blah, blah. Republican establishment hated him. You want to know what's happening right now? The thing that probably is overlooked more than anything is the unification of the Republican Party. I talked about it in the stats when they did the polling after the State of the Union. 97% of Republicans love the speech. And I don't know what Obama's were, but I don't think he had anything close to that. And I wouldn't even believe those polls. These are not Trump-related polls, folks. That was a CBS poll. 97% of Republicans stuck with Trump. Look at what's happening in Congress right now. You're getting guys leaving because they've been outed for one reason or another. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but these people are being outed. They're going to be replaced with pro-Trump people. You have Manchin. You guys know who I'm talking about, Manchin? He's a Democrat who now wants to pretend that he's for President Trump. We'll get to that in a little bit because I want to play the clip of Vice President Pence calling Manchin out. He's a senator that's playing the game. Hey, I'm for Trump. You watch how many people start becoming for Trump. You watch the number of Holly weirdos that start becoming for Trump. You look at the number of Democrats who suddenly are going to start seeing the light, voting on things for Trump. As October, November approaches, you're going to start to see this. It's amazing. I want to go back to these tweets, though. James Woods, when Hillary Clinton screeched that if that effing fatherless child wins, we all hang from nooses, I assumed it was a hangover rant. Now I'm wondering who will build the gallows. That's what James Woods, actor, put out. A guy called The Persistence, his name is Scott Pressler, he tweeted this. The Democrats don't want foreign countries meddling in our elections, right? So why are they okay with a former British intelligence officer putting together an unverified Russian dossier and then planning a story in Yahoo to get a FISA warrant? Good point, Persistence. Sean Davis said this, it's been disturbing to see the number of journalists who have zero problem being fed false information by House Intel Democrats so long as those falsehoods promote the right political narrative. He didn't mean by right in terms of conservative. And he's exactly right. Journalists and journalism died at the time of Obama. It died. They wouldn't look into this guy. While he was committing all kinds of malfeasance and fraud, they said nothing. Anyway, Pam, who's a friend of mine, Pam Bestetter, she says, can you imagine how Obama feels right now learning all of this was going on without his knowledge? He's a victim in this, just like Trump. I'm sure his faith in the FBI chief, Comey, and DOJ folks has been shaken to the core as he now knows exactly how they acted without his authority. If you know Pam, she's the queen of snark. That was funny. It cracked me up. Touche, Pam. Red Nation Rising said this. The memo has only whet my appetite to discover the depth and breadth of the deep state corruption. Now I can hardly wait to see I.G. Horowitz's report. So, that Red Nation Rising, which, by the way, does a lot with my radio show, has a good point there. I'm anxious to see what happens afterwards as well. This is what one person tweeted I thought was very profound, and I know you've probably thought about this yourselves. Remember when Obama said Donald Trump will not be president? He says, I thought when he made that statement, he knew something only a very small group of people knew. Obama and Clinton are the masterminds behind all of this and deserve to be tried for treason. See, I'm of that mindset. Going back to Pam's snarky comment that says, Obama must be shocked. It's funny to me that Obama hasn't tweeted a thing about this. Obama hasn't tweeted since January 15th when he honored Martin Luther King Day and reminded America of how racist it was. He hasn't said a word. You would think the former president of the United States, whose legacy is at stake, whose people were involved in this, would come on and say, if these allegations are true, I'm really saddened by what's going on with the DOJ. Or, hey, how about we wait and get to all the evidence and see the other side of this thing before? He has said nothing. That should tell you a lot. I looked at his tweets. I wanted to know. Prior to that, he tweeted on December 27th. That was the last time he tweeted up until January 15th when he tweeted about MLK, and that's it. Hillary Clinton hasn't tweeted a thing about this. Their silence, folks, is deafening. These people are trying to figure out what are we going to do if they're looking at every angle. I would love to see the meetings going on with these clowns.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
All right, everybody. It's day 3 of the aftermath of the FISA memo. They called it the National Shift Day for Democrats. And it's in reference to Adam Schiff, who practically had to, it was like passing a kidney stone for this guy to want the memo to come out. And he made a big deal about the FISA memo. It shouldn't come out. It's not supposed to come out. It's got too many secrets. It's terrible. Pelosi said the same thing. It was Armageddon. That's her favorite word. It will be Armageddon if they release this. The FBI will no longer be able to operate. Oh, it was released. That's no big deal. What's the big deal? I don't even understand the big deal. Glad you guys are here. Kevin Jackson's who you're listening to. kjradio.com. The biggest political scandal in the history of this nation erupts, and these people go, it's no big deal. And it's not over, folks. Don't think the Republicans are that stupid, at least not Donald Trump. This is drip 1. You're about to see stuff happen. You're about to get revelations about all the inner workings of the crooked deep state that everybody's been talking about, that now even leftists are starting to realize exists, and the Democrats are trying to downplay it suddenly. It's no big. I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand why they made such a big deal about it then. But actually, I do. And now we get the ominous warnings. They warn if Donald Trump fires Mueller, all hell will break loose. He'll be hell to pay. Now they're saying, if he fires Rosenstein, he'll be hell to pay. It's a constitutional crisis worse than Watergate, they say. You got to love these folks. We were in a constitutional crisis because the FBI, along with Hillary Clinton, with permission of the Obama administration, obstructed, interfered with a free election. It was supposed to be free and fair. It was not only not free, it was unfair. And that's what the Democrats do. That's what leftists do. They try to make the playing field unlevel in their favor. That's what they do every time. Each and every day, you can bet it doesn't matter whether your child is trying to get into a college. There is a leftist unleveling the playing field. It doesn't matter if you're trying to get a job. There's a leftist unleveling the playing field. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You may be trying to get a promotion. There is a leftist unleveling the playing field. There's somebody whose ideology has no moral core. They have zero ethics. Their ethics and morals are a moving target. I call it relative morality. And they don't care about you. They don't care about your kids. They don't care about anything that is of the interest of the best interest of the public. They care about themselves. They are the most self-indulgent, whiny little pukes on the planet. Oh, but they tell you they're tolerant and they care about poor people and black people and old people and children. They care about all that. They care about none of it. It's a ruse to cover what they really want, which is something selfish. These people are the reason that we have to have law enforcement. And when they get control of law enforcement, they do exactly what they accuse everybody else of. They become Marxists, autocrats, dictators, totalitarians, and they will use that against you. You know where you have the biggest issues, like there'll be corruption. Some guy wants to get his house, he's got his house, been living in a neighborhood 20 years, and some city councilman wants to zone it for something because he's got an investment of something going in across the street, and yada, yada. And that corruption exists all day long, twice on Sundays, in every city in this nation. I can tell you of an actual story where something like that happened to a friend of mine. And the leftists will tell you they were doing it to protect somebody, to protect the neighborhood, urban renewal, whatever else. No, it isn't. If you ever look at something that doesn't, that looks a little squirrely to you, as they say in Chicago, kind of hinky, you can bet that if you follow the money, what happens if this occurs, you will easily find your culprit. And here's the best part of it. It will be a leftist. I guarantee you it will be a leftist. Somebody who has no concern for the neighborhood, no concern for the community, no concern for the individuals, no concern for anybody except their self-indulgent selves. Day 3 of the aftermath. It's only beginning. You're going to get all kinds of we want to release our side of the story. Release your side of the story. Guess what? If the Republicans are smart, and I believe them to be, not because the Republicans are historically smart, but because Donald Trump is a strategist. He understands the art of the deal. If the Republicans are smart, they've got other things besides the 4-page memo. They've got more than that they can say, oh, did we say we released all of it? Guess what? Here's another one. It's kind of like when Breitbart did Acorn. You think I only had the one location of Acorn they wanted to allow, El Salvadoran underage prostitutes into neighborhoods by way of HUD housing at taxpayer expense. Oh, you thought we just had one undercover video. No, here's another one. Well, there's only 2. Oh, you thought we just had 2. Well, here's 4 additional ones. Oh, well, maybe it's a little more of a problem than we thought. We maybe. See, that's what happens with Democrats. They try to make it's a one-off. No. That rogue, it was just those 2 rogue agents, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Yeah, it was just those 2. Oh, geez, what about McCabe? And they were doing that in his, oh, geez, well, yeah, I guess McCabe. Oh, and then there's that Sally Yates lady. Oh, yeah, well, then there was that Sally Yates. Oh, and what about James Comey? Oh, yeah, and Eric Holder, and Loretta Lynch, and Hillary Clinton, and Barack Obama. Yeah, but Obama's in this. I keep telling you, why hasn't Obama, neither of these people have tweeted. Obama nor Hillary Clinton has said a word about the Democrat or the Republicans going after the FBI. Trying to demean and I forget the words they use, but it's something like, make the FBI seem irrelevant. That's what Schiff and many of the Democrats say. They're trying to undermine the FBI. No, the FBI has undermined itself. They're merely pointing it out. They're undermining the FBI. The FBI is. The truth can have that effect on you. It undermines your lie. It undermines the narrative that you've been trying to set. And there's a bigger question. Since when has the left ever cared about law enforcement? I mean, they got targets on the backs of cops happily. That's law enforcement at the base level. The FBI is a bunch of good people. What about the police? Are they good people too? Speaking of which, we got a movie coming out, bleedingbluemovie.com. Check out the trailer, check out the website. Send a couple of duckies our way. We got to get it produced. I'm Kevin Jackson. We'll be back. Keep it here, folks.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. There was a thing I got. It was sent to me. It was called Enigmas. I can say that I'm officially black. As you know, I'm 79% Negro, 21% white. I knew there was some in there. Oh, my goodness. You ever do Ancestry.com? As a white person, you probably won't trace yourself back to the point where they say your relative was so-and-so owned by. You know, that is like a eye-opening revelation. So-and-so, this Burton or whatever, my family line, owned by the Clasbys or owned by the blankety-blank plantation owner or whatever. That is wild to see. Just the idea that people actually did own one another. They thought that was okay. Democrats thought that was okay. They still do, by the way. Democrats love owning people. If they can't own you, by buying you outright and saying it's okay and rationalizing it, then they'll just steal you and put you in a basement. Come down, periodically and do whatever they want to you and bring their friends. It's crazy. But that's leftism. No moral core. Anyway, there's this thing, Enigmas, that got sent to me, and I thought it was great because it showcases exactly how many of us feel with this so-called utopian society where you can't go anywhere you want and feel free and good. And it showcases the upside down world, inside out world of leftism. And here's the first one. Isn't it weird that in America our flag and our culture offend so many people, but our benefits don't? And it's not just the benefits of come get on our Social Security system, come get on our Medicare system, come take advantage of our schools and other things. They take advantage of the American spirit. The biggest thing, look, it isn't about getting free education or getting a couple of trinkets here and there, getting your meals paid. I mean, people will do that for you all over the world. They're willing to do that. But it's getting to be American. That's a big deal. And people just they squander it. The people leave their countries to come over here to create their country that they just left. That's ridiculous. How about this one? How can the federal government ask U.S. citizens to pay back student loans while illegal aliens receive a free vacation? Free education vacation. Very good question. The left brag on getting free education for illegals. They brag about it. They openly tell you, the these kids need a chance. And you go out, you work your butt off. You tell your kids, you got to study hard. You got to get your education, high school, got to take all those tests. And then maybe you get a scholarship. But if you don't, guess what? Mom and dad will be stocking it away. See, you play by the rules. You do it by the book. Thank you had to make that microphone adjustment. It was like, but anyway, you do it by the book. And I've told you this many times. Do it by the book. The left hates you. They can't stand you. How dare you do it by the book? There's someone here that can take advantage of you. So you're socking away all this money, which, by the way, I saw a statistic that said it was a joke about Bitcoin. It says, how could something raise 17,250%? Why would you invest in something that's vapor, that's had a 17,250% increase since its inception or whatever? And then the joke is, that's how much education has gone up in the same amount of time. It's ridiculous how much we pay for college. You would think college would be getting less expensive. Look at what Elizabeth Warren made to teach one class. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Professors, tenured professors making, I'm not talking about $100,000. I'm talking about $300,000-$400,000 a year. Why? Because they're supposedly so great at what they do. If they were so great at what they do, they don't need the money. If you got patents and all those things that, let me tell you, you don't need to work in academia. If you worked in academia and you were, like Tesla, and you had all the patents, you don't need to work in it. You would do it to say, I got plenty of money. I want to give back. It should be a labor of love. These guys act like they're starving to death. Even the regular teachers, they're not starving to death. They picked a career that's a pretty good career. I could go on. I don't want to cover all these. We won't get through all these this segment because there's a bunch of them. But, yeah, I just can't imagine my kids were scholarship kids, so I don't have to worry about it. But I can't imagine, saving up money, getting all this stuff ready for education, only to find out that somebody else got it for free while you did it the hard way. Many of you know what I'm talking about. I got friends that, we socked away about $50,000 for the kids' education. I'm going, wow. Imagine what somebody could do with that. By the way, there's some that have socked away lots more. But imagine what you could do with that if you could just hand that over to your kids at the end of, their college that they got online, and they go start a business, $100,000, $250,000 to start a business, something that they really enjoy doing. And they know, because when you think about education, I've talked about this, 80% of the people who get their degrees don't use their degrees. How sick is that? I told some kids that the other day. They were like, really? I go, yeah. I said, how many? There were 3 of them there. I said, look, statistically speaking, 2 of you are not even going to use your degrees. It's 2 of you. You're going to go, you're going to pay a ton of money. I don't know what your situation is, but you're going to pay a ton of money, and you're not even going to use your degrees. And they were looking at each other like, I said, do you even know what you want to do? And it was funny to look at them, just kind of go, oh, well, no. And I go, yeah, you don't, do you? I go, you want to know why? Because your high school hasn't prepared you. Your folks don't even know how to do it because they went through the same system. And I said, and then I said, dude, what are their degrees in? Interestingly, none of their folks were using their degrees. None. 3 sets of parents, 6 people, not one using their degree. And I said, but they encourage you to go to college, right? They want to pay for that. They're ready to do anything to get you there, and they don't even know what they wanted to do in life. They've changed careers. You're going to probably change careers, and you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. That should tell you everything you need to know about the rules of education. Meanwhile, some illegal is going to go get an education that he or she is not going to use ultimately, unless it's social justice warrior. I'm going to become an attorney, an immigration attorney. I'm going to become an advocate. I'm going to become a community, blah, blah, blah. That's what they're going to use their degrees for, because it's not going to be anything proactive, productive for the United States. If you told me this little Mexican dude is a genius, he knows physics, calculus, science, whatever, maths, all these different maths, we're going to educate him, and then he's going to, work for the Sandia National Labs or something, I'd go, okay, I get it. But we're just educating people because let me tell you what it is. They're filling the system. They're filling it up. Taking your tax money, filling up the system and making you think, oh, well, we feel good. We got them in education. You got them in education that's junk. They're not even going to use it. And who benefits? The educators.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. The Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Polling. How many times do we need to talk about the polls? Yep. Listening to the Kevin Jackson Show. kjradio.com. You can find us 24/7. Latest poll. Donald Trump doing well. Donald Trump's been doing well in polling for quite some time. You guys want to know when? Since November of 2016, he's been doing well in the polls. Now, it hasn't reflected that in what the left will tell you, but trust me when I tell you, Donald Trump's been polling well. And the polls are a tool. And look, we've talked about this, but I promise you, I'm not just going to bore you with the details of this because there's a lot you know. Kevin, I don't trust the polls. I get it. But then you see a poll and you look at it and you're like, oh, there's a poll, new poll's out. It's a curiosity, right? We know it's weighted against Donald Trump. There's a new poll that's going to do such as a... Yeah, whatever. But then we get a new poll that shows progress. Rasmussen came out with one. And I said, this is this latest poll showcases the BS of polling, the fake news narrative across the pond. What am I trying to say here? It's just fake news. The press looks at this new poll, Rasmussen poll, for President Trump, favorable to President Trump. They say, this is a reason to celebrate. Well, they don't tell us that. They just go, hey, Trump's polling better. Now, let me tell you what's happening. The press is finally going, we can't downplay this the way we might normally do it. Yeah, but they're not fooling this black man. See, this poll is really meant to demoralize you in a strange sort of way. I know you're going, Kevin, what are you talking about? President Donald Trump's approval rating jumped to a 7-month high on Friday, following a State of the Union address that was widely received as a success. I gave you guys numbers from the State of the Union. 97% Republican support, 43% Democrat support. Whew, scary number for the Democrats. 72% independent support. Again, by the way, all three of those are scary numbers for the Democrats because the Democrats have been trying to scare you, conservatives, Republicans, away from Donald Trump, and they got 3% of you to go for it. But 97% of you went, we ain't buying it. Get your nonsense out my face, man. So you didn't buy it. So what that means is Donald Trump has shored up the Republican base. Now, I'll ask you, what do you think's going on inside of the rhino portion of the Republicans, the Mitch McConnells and the Paul Ryans and those guys who are now supporting Donald Trump practically like he's, the Pied Piper. They're following this dude like, what next, Mr. Trump? What next, President Trump? Because they've been forced to. Do you think in the latest revelations with what happened with FISA and all the things that where they attacked Donald Trump, do you think for 1 second the Republicans are going, no, we better be wishy-washy on Donald Trump? They got it. And by the way, some of them were complicit. The John McCains and the Lindsey Grahams and a few others, even the Paul Ryans, the leadership, the Mitch McConnells, they didn't want Trump. But now suddenly, Trump's not that bad. So I want you to think about that. That's shoring up the Republican base. Then the shocking number of people, by the way, 100% of Democrats hate Donald Trump. They hate him. Millions. Hillary won the popular vote. Okay, good. 43% of them heard him speak at the State of the Union and went, you know what, that was a good State of the Union speech. Now, I'm just telling you, you got these vipers, these anti-Trump Democrats that hate this man. They've been taught to hate him, trained to hate him. They love to hate him. And now 43% of them no longer hate him. And then, of course, the independents, 72%. Who cares? It's a big number, blah, blah, blah. But you get what I'm saying. And then they tell you, the Rasmussen Daily Tracking Poll shows 49% of likely U.S. voters believe Trump is doing a good job in the White House. The same number disagree. 49% for, 49% against. So in other words, if Trump were to run for re-election again, he might not win. And then you get this. The last time the poll put Trump's number so high was mid-June of last year. Mid-June of last year, they had Trump polling at this rate. I think this was when they were still when they really believed that they could get him, that he was, they were, oh no, Donald Trump's the man. He's definitely the one that we want to run against Hillary. And they were embroiled in controversy with Hillary, Bernie, blah, blah, blah. So they thought they wanted Donald Trump. Yeah, the 49% number puts him above his performance level in the 2016 election, when 46.1% of voters chose him over Hillary and a handful of minor candidates. So he didn't even have a plurality. But now he's, 2.9, almost 3% higher than he was when he got elected. So, but you see how they kind of water it down. The same number disagree. This is where he was last June, but he dropped when he won. I'm just telling you guys, they don't fool me. This is meant to demoralize you. Now they go on to say this. They said the poll numbers could rise. It's possible that Monday's overall approval will climb even higher than the 49% because it's a rolling 3-day poll. They say, and then they give you all the averages of when it's published and all this other stuff. But let me tell you something. You would have to be a fool to believe that Donald Trump doesn't have a plurality at this point. You'd have to be crazy. He's got well over 50%. Well over. I would venture to tell you that Donald Trump, and again, I'm going back to State of the Union numbers, 97% of Republicans, 43% of Democrats, 72% of independents. Now, as a mathematician, if you tell me with that type of a plurality, the only one he doesn't have an advantage is with the Democrats. But with the Republicans, he's almost 100%, and in independents, he's almost 3/4. And then he's got almost half the Democrats, and they want you to believe he's polling at 49. That's a mathematical impossibility. The only way that's possible is if the Democrat numbers were so skewed. In other words, to use real numbers, if you got 500,000 Republicans, 500,000 independents, and 1 million Democrats, 2 million Democrats, then only 43% of those Democrats, less than 1 million, would be for Trump, and a bunch of them wouldn't be, and then the other numbers might work out in your favor. So you'd have to have double the number of Democrats as you have Republicans and independents for the numbers to come anywhere close to 49%. Which goes back to what polling usually does. Polling usually is. It's weighted to Democrats. Now, Kevin Rasmussen, no offense to Rasmussen or Zogby or all of them. They're all a bunch of junk. They're a bunch of guys making a crap load of money, because you can influence a poll just by the way you frame a question. These are guys, man, look, it's a racket. I mean, it's a total racket. I would love to be involved in it. It's a total racket. Anyway, another overlooked poll by the media came from Matt Rasmussen, and in that poll, voters were asked whether Trump would keep his promises he made in his address, and a majority said he was more likely to do so than other presidents. Now, see, that's a telling thing, a telling statement. People believe that Donald Trump's going to do what he says. And that, the believability of Donald Trump, I'm just going to ask you, has it gone up or has it gone down? There are many people, they said Trump was a liar. When Trump made the tweet where he said the White House has been spying on me at Trump Tower, and people, hey, look at him, he's crazy over there, he's a liar. Here's what Time magazine posted about this so-called Russian collusion. Here's what they said. When President Trump sat down with the New York Times for an interview recently, he said something untrue about every 75 seconds. That's not just usual political boasting and grandstanding. Those were actual, verifiable claims which professional fact checkers investigated and found to be untrue. For example, Trump said in an interview that virtually every Democrat has said that the Trump campaign did not collude with Russians during 2016, while there was, quote, tremendous collusion between Democrats and Russians. And they show his tweet. All right. Then they said, that's not just false, but breathtakingly false, as one fact checker put it. Democrats have not exonerated Trump, though some have been circumspect about what we know and what we don't know about Russian meddling. And there's little evidence that Democrats were colluding with Russia. That's what they said. In fact, the CIA, FBI, NSA found in January of 2017 that Russia aimed to discredit Hillary Clinton and help Trump's chances in the election, so the claim doesn't make much sense. That's what Time said. Now, I'll ask you, you still think Time believes that Trump was lying when he said this, or that it's a conspiracy theory? Because let me tell you, most of Americans at this point know exactly what we're dealing with. If you were to analyze what Time called a lie every 75 seconds by Trump, you're going to find out who the real liar is. To the president's credit, he's managed to make the fake news moniker stick, and that's exactly what we're dealing with. Trump is polling well above 49%, and there's no way you can convince me otherwise.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
All right, everybody. The Democrats want you to believe they're smooth sailing, that they are calm in the face of all of this defeat that they've encountered, that they're calm in the face of all these new revelations about them and what's been going on behind the scenes. Welcome. Kevin Jackson here at kjradio.com, 844-551-8255 if you want to talk to a brother. Democrats, folks, have been embattled for the better part of 2 years. It's funny. Normally, Democrats are offensive. The double entendre is intended because they are offensive in a couple of ways. You know what I'm saying? But over the past 2 years, Democrats have had to fight defensively. Normally they're pushing an agenda, right? And they tried on the Russian thing, but it's been defense. They've tried to mix in a little jab every now and then, but for the most part, they're backing up. They've been having to fight defensively. The real problem of Democrats, though, began back in 2008. And this was when Obama hit the scene hard. He hit the scene in 2004, and they started grooming him. But in 2008 was when their real problems began. And during that time, the Democrats waged the most offensive battles you can imagine under the cover of darkness. That's intended. You know, they had Barack Obama protecting them. It was all about color and race and all these other things. But that was when their real problems began. And what's funny about it is they don't know that. Because what looked like a cure for all that ailed them actually damaged them, and it nearly killed them. You guys have heard me talk about all the triage that happened during the Obama administration that they had to overlook. They were forced to overlook it. Blind faith in a feckless leader led Democrats to their worst 8-year period in political history. However, their public persona disallowed any complaints. The Democrats were, well, we're the party of, we love black people. We're the party of, we love to give people chances to fail. And so they were forced by the nature of their being to say, we love Obama. They don't like Obama. Man, truth be told, if they were behind the scenes and you said, be honest, or I'll have to just whoop your head. They don't like Obama. They hated his 8 years. Did they want the policies? Yes, they did. But the way he went about it and what the outcome was is devastating to them. If they told you the truth, that's what they would say. And there are Democrats listening to this program right now. They go, yeah, I mean, I'll never say it outside of, the confines of my car or in the shower or while, tuning up the car, whatever they may be doing while they listen to my show. And there are plenty of them that do. But the facts are what I just said. Post-Obama, leftists moved their eggs, however, back to the Clinton basket. Hillary Clinton, that is. And that was a huge mistake, and the Democrats knew it. They still lived on the idea of that Bill Clinton era, where Bill was popular. And I mean, we're talking about decades ago, but Bill Clinton, they still had a little bit of muscle memory left about that Bill Clinton. I mean, aside from that Lewinsky thing, I mean, we still got that because they just want to skip over Obama. There's nothing you can look at with Obama and go, oh, we're good to go. So they said, we do have that Clinton name. Let's go back. Not to mention, they owed her, right? Hillary was going to be the next United States president because it's her time, as her slogan demanded. And this fear of a Hillary Clinton presidency is the only reason why leftists jumped on board. Again, leftists, come on. 844-551-8255 if you want to dispute me. You jumped on board with Hillary Clinton because you had to. You didn't like her. You like her less than Obama. Hillary Clinton, you wouldn't be your friend. You would not call Hillary Clinton to bail you out of jail or to come get you out of trouble. Please. The 3 a.m. phone call goes the voicemail. I promise you. So they know they didn't like her, but they feared her. They feared a Hillary Clinton presidency because they know that harlot, if she had gotten into the presidency and you didn't back her, she would have just cut you off at the knees. I'm talking Tanya Harding stuff here, baby. So over the last 2 years of hesitant support of Hillary Clinton, the left glimpsed the level of corruption that was bubbling under the surface. A Leviathan hid under the swamp waters, and the left ignored it. Email scandals were dismissed as much ado about nothing. What's the big deal? Y'all don't want her because she's a woman. Pay to play was called a partisan witch hunt, where we talked about the collusion between the State Department and Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. And they were like, it's another witch hunt. The leftists turned a blind eye, folks, to the corruption between the DNC and Hillary Clinton and the collusion of those two to get Bernie Sanders completely just kicked out. Bernie, for all intents and purposes, he was really the candidate. So they got to see this, and you know what they did? They just ignored it. Who cares? Y'all just don't like her. You don't want her to win because you don't want to see the first woman president. No. I don't have any problem with a female president. If she's got the chutzpah, can't say the male genitalia, but if she's got the chutzpah, I would love to see a female president. I have no issue with it whatsoever. Now, I have talked to a few people that go, Kevin, I just don't like women in charge. And I get that too. I understand it. I've seen how women operate when they're in charge of things, and so have other women. That's why, you know who said it to me? A woman said to me, I don't want a woman president. And I bet you there are many others out there too that feel the same way. But here's the thing. There was nothing the left were willing to call Clinton out on, mostly out of fear of the inevitable, and that is a vengeful Hillary Clinton. And thankfully it never happened. But the Democrats have another problem now. They have the cover-up. And as they said with Watergate, the cover-up can be bigger than the crime. And there is no more true statement when it comes to the cover-ups under Barack insane Obama. In no certain order, Benghazi, they called it a video by a California guy. On 9/11, we get our embassy, our consulate gets attacked, and they say it was a video out of California. As if we were too stupid to realize, what do you mean? You mean you didn't amp up security on 9/11 in Libya? That's ridiculous. But they wanted us to believe this BS lie. And the media, of course, was complicit. Oh, it was a video that did it. Video. Everybody's talking about the video. And then they blame one guy. We get one guy that did all that damage that required the death of four people, 2 special forces guys. Unbelievable. But they want you to believe that lie. What else did they do? It wasn't just Benghazi. The VA scandal, the IRS scandal, Fast and Furious. You want to tell me that these are not cover-ups? Go back and look at what Eric Holder said about Fast and Furious, how that was covered up, and you'll get what I'm talking about. What about the Iranian money dump? Where Barack Obama, we didn't pay for hostages and we didn't do this, but they needed their money back. There are many others, folks. The Democrats have covered up massive malfeasance, yet they admit to no wrongdoing, and Obama brags about his scandal-free administration. And his declaration now seems laughable because Democrats are embroiled in the biggest controversy of their history outside of their support of slavery. And to that point, another civil war rages inside of America, and the Democrats are again the bad guys. The party of corruption, the party who weaponized the FBI against conservatives in general and Donald Trump in particular. But instead of admitting their guilt, instead of these clowns apologizing to regain some semblance of being human, they continue with the cover-up. They make excuses for the FBI. They shift their rhetoric of partisan witch hunt from Hillary Clinton to the FBI. Meanwhile, what started this fiasco for them is their ginned up and very fake investigation of the so-called collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians. So in keeping with this lie, the Democrats put on their stone faces. They go, nope, we're not worried. Poker faces. They pretend to be not worried about what's going to happen. And in meetings all over the country, folks, and many in D.C., Democrats are strategizing on the spin of the release of the FISA memo. They now claim to have their own version of the document. And then they said that the Republicans cherry-picked theirs. Well, I can't wait to see it because I watched the Twitter feeds. I look at the temperature of the water, so to speak, and the Democrats are in hot water.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
What's up, everybody? You excited about the Marion Barry statue that's about to debut? Glad you're with me. It's a Kevin Jackson Radio Show, kjradio.com. That's right. A reason to celebrate during Black History Month. My first reference to Black History Month, and what are we, 5 days in? Look at me. I didn't even realize it. I need to turn in my Negro card. I forgot about Black History Month. I really did. I heard one reference to it earlier, and it dawned on me. I hadn't said it on the show. Black History Month. My month. Oh, man. What a month to debut the Marion Barry statue. While leftists have torn down historical statues of these white people that haven't suited their narratives, they build others. Yeah, the latest showcase to leftist loonyism. Is that a word? Oh, my goodness. I read this report. I could not believe. First of all, when they said they were going to build a statue to Marion Barry, I said, this is the pipe dream of a white dude. And it was. It was a white guy who said, we need to give a statue to Marion Barry. Look at everything he did for D.C. Yeah, okay, all right. There's a periodical called D.C. Curbed. And here's what they said. In November 2014, former D.C. Mayor Marion Barry Jr. passed away at the age of 78. And since then, there have been plans to memorialize him with a statue. The $300,000 8-foot-tall statue will be installed outside the John A. Wilson building along Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest on March the 3rd at 11:30 a.m. with a dedication by Mayor Muriel Bowser and Council Chair Phil Mendelson. This is a big deal for D.C. Look, I'm not going to dismiss everything Marion Barry did because he was caught trying to buy cocaine from the FBI. I'm not going to dismiss it. And when he got caught, Marion Barry said, it was a setup. They set me up. I started using coke, and how was I supposed to know these were FBI agents? They set him up. Marion, you kind of set yourself up, broski. You know, how is it a setup when you want to buy some coke and somebody says they're going to sell it to you and they turn out to be, federal agents? Because you're trafficking, you're asking for an illegal substance, Mayor of D.C. Marion got elected after that too, by the way. This goes to show you, every time these black folks talk about me being a stepping fetching Negro and a tool of the white man, I'm like, are you clowns crazy? You elected a crackhead. And they've done it more than once. And full of crooks over. I'm just telling. I have no bias against a black politician. In fact, there's a guy running, I believe, out of Illinois, black dude, ex-military guy, running as a Republican. I fully support this brother, and he is a stellar candidate based on his accomplishments. Put it this way. He's Obama with an actual track record of accomplishment. That's what he reminds me of. If Obama had done something good with his life and done it the right way and even led the Democrat Party the right way, he's the Republican version of a competent Obama. I know that's kind of a backhanded compliment in a strange kind of way, but I mean it as a compliment to him. And I forget his name. I've got it written down because I'm going to help his campaign for sure. Anyway, back to the statue. So they say the statue is commissioned by the Executive Office of the Mayor in partnership with the D.C. Commission on the Arts and Humanities and the Marion Barry Commission. The artist behind the statue is Maryland-based Stephen Weitzman of Weitzman Studio. Barry, dubbed Mayor for Life, is known for having been elected 4 times, his time in the D.C. Council, and a scandal that led him to being convicted of a misdemeanor cocaine possession. On Barry, the Washington Post's Mark Fisher once wrote that, quote, no other mayor has come close to his achievement in providing first jobs for poor young black residents. Okay. Look, again, I don't want to condemn the dead. And Marion Barry is certainly, he's more than the crack cocaine possession, or the cocaine, whatever it was. I think it was probably crack. But he's bigger than that. No question about it. But do we really? And I know there are people that are arguing. Kevin, he was the mayor 4 times. D.C. elected him. He did some good things for D.C. And I won't even tell you that that's not the case, because I was looking at how he would go back and ask for more money for different things. And there was a point early on where I really believe Marion Barry was truly trying to do good for D.C. And I can tell you when it got screwed up, for those of you who care. It got screwed up when Marion Barry stopped following his instincts and saying, I'll hire the right people to do the right thing for this city. And then he decided to start hiring his cronies, his buddies. He was like MC Hammer. He had an entourage. And those people were totally self-indulgent, as most leftists are. And they didn't care about what Marion Barry wanted to accomplish for the city. It was what could they get out of it. And you had one of the most corrupt, cities. It's a district, but it's, operates like a city in the world. And because they do run different, it's a district. And a lot of people come into the district to work and leave. And so the tax base disappears and a lot of other things. Barry had some legitimate things on how they should get funded. But in the end, D.C. just ended up looking like shoot 'em up, bang, bang, Chocolate City. Chocolate City wherever. New Orleans, Chocolate City, Detroit. And so it gets a reputation for being one of the most dangerous cities when all around it is wealth, engulfed in wealth, in fact. And D.C., average incomes, just crazy numbers across the board. And Marion Barry not doing anything you got all these black folks in one place that could be the shining city on the hill and represent blacks well, the way Atlanta believes itself to be. And it was squandered. Worst schools in the nation, crime through the roof, fraud in government and so on and so forth. That's where I blame them. Now, as far as the statue goes, who cares? They want to pay $300,000 to build an 8-foot statue of Marion Barry and install it somewhere in D.C. I get it. But, worse things have happened. But to put a crackhead in a statue and then complain about statues of other people, I'm talking about these Confederate statues and part of history, I think is disingenuous. Anyway, folks, we've got a ton to talk about today. Keep it here. I loved it. You guys have tuned in yet again. I want to cover enigmas. Again, we did it earlier in the broadcast, and we'll do some more of that here in a bit.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. We talked earlier in the broadcast about enigmas. And these are the things that don't make sense when you're using common sense. And you guys have heard me say this before. I'll say it 1,000 times. I don't get what it is that makes leftists have such a lack of common sense. I don't understand it. Where did it go wrong? To not have the common sense that the average 8-year-old conservative possesses, you got to ask yourself, how does that happen? How is it even possible? I've seen grown people on the left say things and do things that I scratch my head and go, you couldn't possibly believe that, or I witnessed you do that. I can't believe you did that. It's like watching a 3-year-old. All right, so I'll give you an example. Here's one of these enigmas. Only in America are legal citizens labeled racist, xenophobes, even Nazis, but illegals are called dreamers. I want you to think about that. The left intentionally they demonize you for, again, playing by the rules. You say, you know what? I'm going to go by the book here, pay my taxes, blah, blah, blah. And they say this, we're going to let people in. You go, hold on a second. We have a legal system. Oh, you're one of those. You're a Nazi. You're a xenophobe. You're a racist. You don't like such and such. And then you go, but these people are taking they're dreamers. They just want what you have. Yeah. And so here's the difference. If you took Americans and you placed us in Mexico, and you took Mexicans and you placed them in America, in a decade, Mexico would be where everybody wants to come. It wouldn't take a decade. We would change the culture of Mexico. It would be, we would be the vacation spot. We'd have industry there. It would be crazy how well we run. By the way, take America, stick it over into Africa. Tell me what you'd have. Move all the Africans to America, move all the Americans into Africa. You know what you'll have? People that say, man, that America's a dangerous place. You don't want to go to the United States. There ain't nothing united about them. But you go to Africa, and we would have monuments to success. There'd be factories on top of factories. For all intents and purposes, there's roughly 50 countries in Africa. There's roughly 50 states and some protectorates here in America. It would be a good swap. And I promise you, we would take the gold, the diamonds, the plutonium, the uranium, the rubber, you name it, and Africa would be the strongest country in the world within a decade. And America would be an armpit. It's just the way it works. It's a mentality. The American spirit, we just take it. I can't even tell you how easy it would be to do. Can you imagine America having access to all of the natural resources of Africa? I'm talking about the tourism that would be possible. You think you want to go to San Francisco. You think you want to go to Florida. You wait till we finish with Ghana. You wait till we finish with the Ivory Coast, Senegal, on the west coast of Africa, northwest. You wait till we're done with the tourism that would come from all the national parks. And the things a zoo, we forget the zoo. It would be practically Jurassic Park the way we would have people coming to Africa. The island of Madagascar, you couldn't even afford to go when we're done. It would be the island of the rich and famous. That's all you have to be the richest people in the world to get to Madagascar. And I could go on. You kidding me? Here's the next one. Enigma. Liberals say, if confiscating all guns saves just one life, it's worth it. Well, then, if deporting all illegals saves just one life, wouldn't it be worth it? Great point. See, we always do that. We always go back to if it just saves one life. And leftists never use that question on themselves. Never. If it just saves one life. We just had a massive train wreck. Another one on Amtrak. You think this one was coming from Miami or something? In December, we had the maiden voyage of a DC rail was part of a wreck. The maiden voyage, and the dude was driving 50 mile an hour over the recommended speed limit. And you got to figure he was the best dude because, it's the maiden voyage. They had just christened this new train, and it's going to take its maiden voyage. And this clown wrecks it 50 mile an hour over, derails, kills a bunch of people. The one yesterday, I think it was Sunday, that this happened. Is South Carolina? I don't know exactly where, but that one wrecked, and it killed some people. I did a thing. I was looking at the number of wrecks. I believe it's 16 wrecks since 2000 on Amtrak, and 12 derailments. So that's a total of 28. Now that doesn't include since the rail system started. There's more prior to that in the 80s. Going back to the 80s. But that just gives you sort of a general idea of how the system is. And then I looked up the Japanese train wrecks. I had to go back to 2005 to find the last one. And the research I was able to do, which was just some quick research, showed there had been 8 total. I'm talking about transit trains. I'm not talking about high-speed bullet trains. I'm talking about all trains, but I'm saying the most of the wrecks were on these transit trains that, had some issues one way or the other. 8 total since Japan had trains. In the United States, since the year 2000, we've had 28. And most of them are deadly. So I'm just saying, you look at all these different things and you go, couldn't we just save one life there? How much money did we spend on infrastructure? Everything Barack Obama talked about, roads and bridges and America's infrastructure. In fact, he said in 2009 and 2010 that the money that he had saved in 2010, he says the money that was saved in some repositioning of money was going to build our high-speed rail system. Where is it? I haven't seen it. He said that 2 years in a row, 2010 and 2011, that money that was going to come back through, I believe he said, part of the Affordable Care Act or something else, was going to build us a rail system we could really count on, whatever. And since he said that, there's been, there's been 5 wrecks on Amtrak this year. Are you guys aware of that? 5 on Amtrak in the last year. And I made the comment, that's not President Trump. It's on his watch. But that's an inherited thing from Barack Obama because he took a lot of money from us. And he didn't improve the infrastructure. Because you would think with the number of people who are killed on America's roads and bridges, as well as our transportation systems, that he would care if we could just save one life, as they like to say. Well, he could have saved one life, and he didn't. So what's up with that? Here's another one that he talks about, and then we got to take a short break. He says, I can't figure out, this is enigmas, I can't figure out how you can proudly wave the flag of another country, but consider it punishment to be sent back there. Man, is that one true. Mexicans march. They got their flag at the different marches. America, man, you got to accept us, blah, blah, blah. Ask any one of them, do you want to go live in that country that you're waving that flag for? No, but they will step on the American flag while holding the Mexican flag and want no part of Mexico.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. It's the Kevin Jackson Show. kjradio.com. I've been feuding with this school. It's a private school in St. Louis. It's called MICDS, and it's one of these amazing institutions, a type of school that you would dream to send your kids to. And it's been around for probably over 100 years, graduated congressmen and senators and judges and people, that are respected people. And so over the past few years, I don't know how many, it's decided to change its course and go into social justice warrioring stuff on behalf of minority students. And it was brought to my attention by a friend of mine who's a benefactor. And he says, Kevin, would you want to send your kiddos to this school? And I said, he told me about the school. I said, no, I wouldn't want to send my kids to that school. They're dumbing them down and so on and so forth. And you guys have heard me talk about it. And I went and I met with the administrator. I got a good reason for telling you this story, by the way, so hang in there. So I met with the administrators and I said to them, guys, you got to stop doing what you're doing. You're going to ruin this school. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This type of thing, the social justice warrioring, it's pervasive already in schools around the country. All the public schools that you're paying for kids not to learn the things that they're going to need in life. You're paying for them to go to this leftist Montessori that says you have to look at every condition through the lens of everything you're not. So what, you're not LGBTQ? You got to look at through that lens. So what, you're a boy? You got to look through the lens of a woman. You don't have to look at the world through the lens of a man, but you got to look at the lens of a woman. You got to look at through the lens of a minority, and so on and so forth. And what they're doing is they're weakening American society. And I believe it's intentional. And at first it was just, through public schools. But now they're saying, no. This is going to go into private schools. So they got all these people. I swear to you, the industry we're talking about here, folks, is worth billions. They put I forget this one guy's name, but he's got an entire industry, 6 figures. He goes into a school, implements a program on, diversity and multiculturalism, and then they come and refresh. And this guy is printing money, taxpayer money, to tell people that their kids are racist, they're homophobic, they're xenophobic, they're Islamophobic, and all these other things, and they're none of that. They're introducing kids to these concepts that the kids don't even care about. How many people have said this? You put a bunch of kids in a room together, they may laugh and cajole and tease each other or whatever, but it won't be because of racism. It'll be because, Sally's hair is this way, or so-and-so's got bigger feet or whatever. And they'll have fun with one another. And for the most part, they won't even care about that. They'll just play. They care about your interest. Do you like dolls? Do you like Pokemon? Do you like whatever? Power Rangers or whatever may be the flavor of the day. That's what they care about. And so I talk about, growing up poor. My family worked for the caretakers of a wealthy family, as caretakers rather, for a wealthy family. And that family saw the potential in me and my brother, and they sent us to a private school, much like the private school that I'm railing against right now. And I remembered my excitement at having that opportunity to go to something different that was going to be different than my friends. And they sent us booklets of the school and all that. I ended up going to the Marine Military Academy. And when my brother and I arrived at that school, it was clear to me that school expected us to earn everything we got. And I'll give you the first encounter I had. We went to football camp, uninvited. I was a freshman, my brother was a sophomore, and we were good football players. We walked down, got to the campus, didn't know where to go, asked somebody, they said, "Oh, you're looking for Coach Morton." We go into the gym. Coach's office was inside of this rinky-dink little gym, and there was Coach Morton, his son, and a guy named Jim Garman. And it was 3 of the biggest people I'd ever seen in my life. Jim Garman was at the school as trying to get into the service academy, trying to go to the Naval Academy. He was 6'7" and probably 280 pounds. Coach was 6'5" and used to play professional football, I believe for Baltimore. He was a coach for the Baltimore Baltimore, whatever they would call. And his son, Tom, I believe, is 6'8", probably 270 pounds. Those are the first 3 people my brother and I saw. And we walked in there, and Coach says this. I swear this is a true statement. He looks over. He's a former Marine Corps drill instructor, a drill sergeant. And he says, "What the heck are you turds doing here? Who are you?" And we go, We're the Jacksons. And he goes, "All right." He goes, "What do you want?" And we go, we're here to play football." And he goes, "You're here to play football?" He go, and it was a shock to him. And I can only tell you the shock to us, because he was like, "Well," he goes, "we already got the football team here. Meet your linemen," like that. And there was Garmin. And then he goes, "You might be able to be managers." So we were managers our first year on the football team, because Coach was like, I don't even know who you are. You got to earn your spot on this team. And that was the beginning. Now we played years. I played 3 years of football after that. And my brother played 2, and we were football standouts. But I got to tell you, when I saw those 3 absolute tree toppers, I was like, I don't know that we're ready for this. I was looking at my brother going, manager sounds pretty good right about now. And he didn't argue. But so I'm not going to bore you with much more details except to tell you this. I was tops in my class for my 3 years that I was there, full 3 years, and I probably would have been valedictorian of the school had I stayed for the entire 4th year. I left in the half of my senior year. Went back to to go to my regular high school in Brady, Texas. I got degrees in electrical engineering, computer science, and math. Nothing handed to me. And I tell this story often what happened to me at MMA. Dr. Hockaday was my physics professor. This was my freshman year at that school. He was my physics professor. We used the same book as MIT. And I remember, God is my witness, folks. You don't have to believe this, but it's the truth. So Dr. Hockaday said, you know what? I don't want to teach. We're going to teach out MIT, but we're going to take a standardized test to see how you guys compare with the rest of the nation. No, I take that back. The first test, we were doing the MIT book. And so he gave us a test, and I made a 92. And he wrote a half a page on how bad I was as a student. Half a page. And I was like, well, what did everybody else get? And I was one of 2 A's. Me and a guy named Jorge Elizondo were the 2 A's in the class. And Jorge got a 96 or something, which kind of made me mad because I wanted to be smarter than Jorge. So he writes a half a page novel on my blue book on carelessness because I didn't make 100. And so I was like, you got to be kidding me. So the next test we took, I don't know, a few months later, whatever, I made a 96. He wrote a 2-page essay on how careless I was and making a 96. And I called my grandmother and go, this dude is relentless. I made a 92, he writes half a page. I make a 96, which is better. He writes 2 pages. I'm not lying. I have the books. I kept them. And then at the last test, our final, he goes, you know what, we're going to do something different. We're going to take the final to compare to everybody. I want a standardized test. I was shaking taking this test because I was like, man, this dude is going to stitch us up. So I take the test, no exaggeration. I remember this like it happened minutes ago. I changed 6 answers. I got ready to hand the test in, and he looked at me and he goes, you sure you're ready to hand it in, Mr. Jackson? He had a voice like that, like old country fella. And I just zipped around, went right back to my desk, and I checked it. And I changed 6 answers and turned my test in. And it was on a Friday. Over the weekend, I was a nervous wreck because I go, man, what's this dude going to do? Long story short, he reads off every test from bottom to the top, 16 percentile, 17 percentile, 23 percentile, whatever, goes to 96 percentile, gives his test to Jorge. And I'm going, holy crap, where's my test? I haven't gotten it back. And he says with pride, and the only 100, and he looks at me and he hands me that test. I cannot tell you the amount of pride I had at that moment. But here's the bigger deal. Had Dr. Hockaday not done that to me, not written those notes, not pushed me, I would not be the person I am today. I swear I know that for a fact. He made me become better by chastising me when I did good. Me and Jorge were the only 2 people that ever made A's in that class under that man. And he made sure I was going to be excellent because he saw excellence in me. And I thank him for that. These people that are doing this stuff to these schools, that are making these young black kids dumb themselves down, are doing the biggest disservice to blacks they could possibly do.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
What do you think? A little fan mail? All right. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Kevin Jackson here. It's the Kevin Jackson Show. It's got a listener. His name is Chris. Here's what he wrote me. Dude, you are the bomb. I have listened to you for the last couple of years. I listen to you on Stitcher. I look forward to listening to you on my way to work and back. I have to tell you, I know you have other engagements and you can't always record, but it sucks when you miss a day. Oh, well, just to let you know that you rock and to keep up the incredible work, FYI, I'm a 47-year-old male. Chris, thanks for the note, my friend, and for pointing out that your unisex name is indeed male. I would have guessed that you were a male just because of the way you wrote. Dude, you are the bomb. Even though I will say, a lot of women do say the same thing. There you go. Here's one. I like this one too. Hello, Kevin. I'm a 70-year-old blind white conservative talk show listener of your show, and I am totally sold on your message and the way you present it. I listen to you in Tampa, Florida, almost every night on 860 AM radio at midnight. It's a shame that Tampa does not understand the importance of your message and that they put you on so late at night. I agree. Barb and my buddy Joe down there, you guys got to do something. But anyway, he goes on to say this. What can I do to help you obtain a better time frame of broadcast in the Tampa market? If I had $1 million, I would invest in your future. I'm sure I would get a great return on my investment. Oh, that cracks me up. He says this. He continues. I forgot to add that I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and I teach the Bible twice a week in my home. God bless you and your family and your career. I pray for your success. Look at me trying to get that $1 million he promised a second ago. Tony, I'm not going to say his last name, left me his phone number, his address. Says, P.S. I live in a golf community. I play golf here in the community, and I also play around the country in blind tournaments with the United States Blind Golf Association. Wow. I don't know if Tony's inviting me to come play golf with him, but no way am I getting my butt kicked in golf by a blind man, Tony. It ain't going to happen. Oh, man, thank you for the note, buddy. I'm talking about enigmas, and I want to finish that out earlier in the broadcast. And by the way, if you guys want to contact me before we get into that, you can at kjradio.com. Send a note there or call. We'll play your clip if it's in the evening. You can call 24/7, 844-551-8255. And as everybody knows, I respond back. Not a bot, not a Russian bot. Even though Putin has asked me if I wanted to have much Russian bots respond back. I told him no. I told him niet. But I do respond back to every note, and it's me. It's not an admin or something like that. So hopefully you will contact us. We love it. So we're talking about enigmas, and here was one that I got sent this in an email, and I found it interesting. I really did, and I thought it was worth us talking about because it does showcase the craziness of leftism. And here's one that William F. Buckley said, liberals claim to want to give a hearing to other points of view, and are they then shocked and offended when they discover there are other points of view? And to me, that's probably one of the biggest differences between us and them is I'm okay with you having, if I say something, you go, Kevin, I kind of differ with you on that. I'm intrigued. I immediately, my senses, my spidey sense goes, do tell, I want to hear. Because it's not a challenge in a bad way, like, oh, you dare challenge me? It's a challenge like, really? Okay, well, good. Whoa, maybe we'll both learn something here. I truly get this sense of, I don't know, it's a good feeling. Leftists don't, man. They get defensive. They do. You've probably been defensive in some way over something that's a touchy subject to you. That's the way leftists approach life. Life, when from a political perspective, is a touchy subject. And they've been trained to be this way, man. Woo! I may tell you, they've been trained this way. Joseph Sobran said, Need now means wanting someone else's money. Greed means wanting to keep your own. Compassion is when a politician arranges a transfer. Nothing could be more true. God, we've got to. It was like when my buddy Joe the plumber, they approached Joe. Obama says, why wouldn't you want to, take some of the money you earn and give it to this waitress? And Joe's like, because I've earned it. It's my response. I determine where my money goes, not the government. The government shouldn't come and be a gangster because it says that this lady needs compassion. We are a compassionate people and we're willing to give, but you shouldn't come here and be a gangster and take our money. And Joe, to the left, is a demon. He's a bad guy for wanting to keep his own money. It's so ridiculous to me. I can't even describe it. But I mean, there's so many scenarios you could get, and think about it this way. In California now, it's $950. Under that, and if you take something from somebody, it's misdemeanor shoplifting. If you go into a store, steal a flat screen TV worth $600, and walk out, it's a misdemeanor. And honestly, you probably get to keep the TV and pay a $50 fine. I don't know what the ramifications are, but it isn't that big of a deal. And I want you to just let that sink in for a second, that the left rationalizes this. And why? Because too many people are getting cases against them for stealing, for shoplifting, and it's ruining their morale, or it's putting too many people in the prison system. So they just decided, well, let's just not make that a crime. Or let's make it such a petty crime that, because people are going to do it. It's them essentially admitting that they don't have control over something like that. How silly is that? And if you were, raise the alarm bell, wait a minute, that's stupid. That's just crazy, folks. You know what it takes for me to make $950? Oh, there you are. Look at you. That's the ridiculous thing is that they believe that. And there are many cases of this. People break into your house. Oh, well, leave them alone. It's only merchandise, things like this. On and on. Story after story of just look the other way, an excuse. They give you some sort of rationalization for somebody stealing your car, or your house being broken into and stuff taken, or worse. There's a rationalization. I tell this story on what's it called, the Next Door, where they, you talk about the issues in your neighborhood to keep it safe. And so a crime gets reported. Oh, a couple of black guys are going through the neighborhood in the alleyways, jumping the fence, stealing things out of houses, and running back, etc. And the first thing that somebody says is, why do you have to say they're black? Because they are. If you see two white guys with a truck, they may be out there trying to pick up old stuff that's in the thing. They're going to refurbish. These two black guys are jumping over fences and stealing stuff out of houses. What do you want me to report it as? Two Buddhists? Two Asians are jumping over fences, but they may look suspiciously like black guys. What do you want me to say? Or the rationalization is this. This is my favorite. It's city living. Hey, there's been a spree of crime, where people have been, houses, doors kicked in, people tied up. In one case, a woman was raped. And they say, oh, well, hey, city living. And I think to myself, you really truly didn't say that. You don't believe that, right? But they do. They believe that. It's city living. Here's one other enigma that I find interesting. And this one will hit home with you. Florida has had 119 hurricanes since the 1850s. But some people still insist the last one was due to climate change. And here again, you can see the futility of their argument. But they look at it's like ignore all this other evidence that Florida is a hurricane zone, in as much as the southern states tend to be tornado zones, in as much as mountainous regions tend to create mudslides or avalanches. It's just the way it is. But they will use some rationalization to tell you, oh, it's climate change, because it's a money grab. And they've trained people to just respond to this stuff. We've had more mudslides this year than we've ever had since the last year. And then 2 years later, it's the fewest mudslides and they don't say a word. It's all to get your money. I was thinking about this Amtrak wreck. The budget for Amtrak, ironically, increases when there's an Amtrak wreck. We've got to do more. How are we going to prevent this stuff without money? Billions of dollars put into a system that doesn't get fixed, and we just wait on the next wreck. That's leftism, folks. Got to leave it there.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.